The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod. We are webcasting to you live from the Warner Center in Woodland Hills. We're in Tower 1. This is the new home for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. This is also the new home of Autism Live. We are in temporary studios while our studio is being built. I want you to make sure that you check in on our Facebook because we're going to be posting updates as the studio is nearing completion. It's very exciting. We have walls up. It's absolutely thrilling. But in the interim, we're having a wonderful time being in our Autism Live Light studio here and still being able to be with you and share the many things that we want to talk about. Today is Wednesday. You know that Wednesday is a very exciting day. In just a few moments, we're going to be joined by Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh. She's here to answer your questions during the segment, Ask Dr. Doreen. Then a little bit later on in the show, we have Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Our very special guest today is Danny Bowman. She is a remarkable young woman on the autism spectrum who is a fabulous artist and a teacher. She has started her own production company, Powerlight Studios. She is an author, an illustrator, and it sounds like she's somebody who is at least 45, right? I believe she's 19. So I can't wait for all of you to meet her. She is one of the speakers at Temple Grandin and Friends that's coming up on May 20th. She's going to be talking about that with us. And Danny spends a lot of time traveling the world. She's going to talk with us about her recent trip to China. I can't wait to hear all about that. So make sure that you stay tuned for that hour after this first hour of Ask Dr. Doreen. Now, I'd like to remind you of a couple of things here at the start of the show. One, this entire program is meant to be interactive. We want to hear from you. We want to know what's on your mind. So Kelby's going to cycle through some of the different ways that you can be watching the show, some of the different ways that you can be participating with us. I want to remind you to sign up for our email list on that homepage, autism-live.com. When you do that, you will get our monthly newsletter and our weekly viewer guide and updates on things that are last minute, incredible things. Sometimes now we have somebody show up at the very last minute. We want to have an opportunity to tell you. So make sure that you sign up for that email list. It's free, and I guarantee you you'll enjoy the information that you get from that. But also on that homepage, autism-live.com, you have the opportunity to interact with us in something that we call the live feature. You see the computer screen on the desktop, and if you click on the triangle on the computer screen, you can be watching the live show or the most recently recorded live show, or you can click on the playlist and cycle back through the most recent 100 episodes of Autism Live. But to the side of that is the live feature. It's the series of white boxes. Put your cursor in the one that says your question, start typing, hit enter. That's really all there is to it. I know somebody had written in yesterday and said, I'm new here. How does this work? That's how it works. If you hit enter, it will show up here on my screen, and then we have an opportunity to interact with you. You don't have to log in. There isn't a username. There is no charge. No one's asking for your credit card number. We don't know your name. We don't know where you are in the world. So I do encourage you when you write in to give us information that will help us to hook you up with resources that will help you, whether that means telling us the age of the individual that you're writing in about, or it's telling us what the nearest major city is, anything that will help us. If you do want to include personal information, we won't share that with the folks at home, and we will only use that so that we can get back to you with information about what you're asking about. I hope that you will participate in that. Before we do anything, and I know we're going to talk about this more throughout the show, I do want to remind you all of something crucially important. You have just 2 more days to register for that free parent training from IBT, the Institute for Behavioral Training. So many of you write in and ask questions of all of our experts, and one of the main resources that we give you, because it's a fabulous one, is the Institute for Behavioral Training. They are offering their entire library of parent training to you for free if you register by the end of April. Once you register, you have 3 months to view those videos and learn everything that you've ever wanted to know to be able to help yourself help your child. Please, not only register for yourself, but make it your business to tell everybody that you know, because you know 3 months from now they're going to say, why didn't you tell me that you were doing this? If I'd known, I would have signed up for that. It's like an early present, early Mother's Day present, early Father's Day present. Tell people free parent e-learning on your own schedule, but you must register within the next 2 days. You have to register before May 1st, and we'll talk more about that. But now it is time, my friends, for Ask Dr. Doreen.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet is the
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen.
Welcome to Ask Dr. Doreen. We welcome Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet.
Thank you, Shannon. Good morning.
Thank you so much for being with us. We want everybody to know, if you're joining us for the first time, that Dr. Grand-Pichet, she is the founder of the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. She is a brilliant expert in the field of autism.
Thank you so
Truly
much.
an expert, and as I always like to say, a visionary in this field. You've been working in this field so long and have helped more individuals on the autism spectrum, children, adolescents, and adults, I think, than anyone else. In fact, you just got an award this week.
I did.
That you went up to Portland, and
Autism Professional of the Year from the Northwest Autism Foundation, which was very
Autism
nice.
Professional of the Year. This,
Yeah.
And very richly deserved,
Thank
might
you
I
very
add.
much. It was very nice.
But truly, an honor for us, that embarrassment of riches that we have when you're here and we are able to pick your brain for information.
so much.
We
Yeah.
thank you for taking this hour every week. We do want to remind our viewers at home that no one sitting in this format could give individual specific advice. We all have to be aware of that. It would be a disservice to the individuals on the spectrum to think otherwise. But having said that, you help us so much to be able to progress with what steps we might take next, what we might look at next, what questions we might ask next. Every time that you're here, I learn so much, and I know our viewers do as well.
Thank you. Well, we'll try to give some guidance and keep it pretty general.
Okay, but we have so many questions.
Yeah, I'm a little bit panicked because we're not really keeping up with the. We're not even close to keeping up with
We're
the
not.
questions that come in.
But we're doing the best that we can, and we'll get to as many questions as we can. And I'm trying to edit and say less. My cute little quips that are, I try to be funny, but we're going to keep
your
it.
the discussions that you bring up are very important, and I always enjoy having that dialogue with you because it actually makes me realize the things I haven't thought of at that time. So please continue doing that.
But I'm going to try to keep it short and to the point.
Okay.
Here we go. Okay, want to start with a question that came in bright and early this morning. Hi, Shannon and Dr. Doreen. My 5-year-old son climbs into my bed every night. I take him back right away and lay with him until he falls back asleep. Then I go to my bed. Like 2 hours later, he comes back to my bed, and I take him back to his bed, lay with him, and go back to mine after he falls asleep. But hours later, he's back in my bed, and it's a cycle throughout the night. In the morning, we're both so tired. He's scared of the dark. Before going to bed, he tells me, turn the TV on. I do. Then he falls asleep. Then I turn it off. The room is really dark. Then we go to bed. We're in the same room, but in different beds. He does not have a problem staying asleep the whole night if he's on my bed. So I know that it's not that he can't stay asleep. I was thinking about a nightlight, but what if that wakes him up? Can you please tell me how I can help him with being scared of the dark and staying asleep in his own bed and not come into mine? And thank you so much. We're sending you air hugs.
Yes, one of the most difficult things is waking up continuously. It truly is. So, I'll give you the answer to this, obviously, but I just want people to start thinking kind of the same way I do in terms of developing little task analyses and shaping schedules, because that answers the almost every problem that we have. If you do it very slowly and gradually and in small, minute segments, it's possible to do. So we have two problems here. One is he doesn't stay in his own room, and the other is we're concerned about him. Like, we feel he might need TV to fall asleep. And we don't know if night lights will keep him up as well. So we feel like he needs something so that would avert his fear of darkness, if that exists. And you can never really be sure if there's a fear of dark. It could also be just, you know, he's not accustomed to being alone. He's not accustomed to being in the dark, and he feels like it's an unknown for him. So regardless, let's for a moment first deal with the issue of staying in his own room. So currently, you always want to list, this is what you want to do. You always want to get your baseline. Your baseline is where you are at this moment. So at this moment, you've described where you are. He continuously comes to your room, you take him back, all this sort of stuff. Where you want to be in a place where he goes to sleep and stays in his room. So that's your goal. Now let's go from where we are to the goal in increments. Okay, so the first step could be you put a bed in his room and you stay there the whole night. So what we're doing now is we're teaching him to sleep in his room with you present. Okay? We've now eliminated your room. So that's step one. That's a good step to accomplish. He's no longer coming to your room. He's staying in his room. However, the conditions of the room are different. He's staying in his room as long as you're there. Okay, that's fine. You get that accomplished. That'll take, he probably will stay in his room because he'll wake up and see you there on a separate bed, and then he'll stay. If he doesn't, we know we have an additional problem, which is he wants you to be in his bed. That's an additional problem, in which case we could go to that. Doesn't really matter. Let's assume we're there. Let's assume you stay. Let's assume he has a bigger bed and you're right next to him. That would be step one. Step two would be after a week or two, you put another bed in his room, perhaps right next to him. You sleep in there. Step three is, a couple of weeks later, you move the bed away from him. You're still in his room, but you're not having physical contact with him. You are now on the other side of the room, okay? And he will stay asleep. Step four is you literally put your bed close to the door. Okay, that's great. Step five is you put your bed in the hallway right outside his room. Okay. And you gradually do this until you are back in your room. Okay, and you do this very, very slowly. Now, the first time when you exit his room, which is in the hallway outside, you want to make sure that there's other pleasant things in his room. Okay, for instance, I don't know his age, so, you know, a stuffed animal, perhaps musical stuff, something that he likes. You could, if he attempts to come out, you can leave the door open, but make sure, and stop walking him back, because at this point you'll be in your bed, right? And he'll come over to you, and you'll see him, and you'll say, just go back to bed. And you can leave the door open. So this will be a very gradual phase, but he'll learn to stay in his bed. Now, and don't forget, every step, as you want to teach it, you're rewarding it, right? So if he stays in his bed, you give him a major reinforcer that he doesn't otherwise get during the day. And so you condition and you shape the behavior this way, okay? And that's pretty self-explanatory now. Now, the issue of the TV being on, you know, a lot of people like to have the TV on. Why don't you put the TV on a sleep timer? I mean, most TVs have sleep timer now, where you can basically put it on and it will switch off after 15, 10, 30, whatever it is you want for him. And actually do put a night light in the room. I don't think a night light is very disturbing. Most people are accustomed to sleeping with a night light. Play with what's in his environment until you find the most appropriate environment for him. One thing I would suggest, which really, really works for sleep, is a air purifier machine, because they produce white noise. And white noise is fantastic. It blocks sudden other noises so that you essentially just hear a very kind of continuous humming sound all night, and people sleep very much better with white noise. So that's something that would help keep him asleep as well. But really, this is about coming to you. And you know, a lot of times we forget that all kids do this behavior when they're very young.
Yeah.
But you know, after a while, they realize it is not okay to come to the parents' bed, and they stop. Now, let me pose a question to you. And again, I don't know how old he is, but if he was typically developing, how would you handle it? You wouldn't let him come to your room. After a certain point, with our typically developing kids, we simply prohibit it. We just tell them, no, stay in your own bed. You have to stay. But with our kids who are on the spectrum, either we think it's too difficult to explain it to them, or we're afraid of injuring them in some way or another. And the truth is, you need to stop allowing him to come to your room, because he will get that message. It's just that for some reason we haven't actually made the message clear. And in order to be gentle about it, you're going to make the message incremental.
Okay. And I just want to add that if you're looking for a really cool nightlight, we've had the folks from Uncle Milton Toys on the show 2 different times. You can find those videos. One of the things they specialize in are really cool, really interactive nightlights. Jem still has the one that's the moon in my room.
Yeah.
They're very inexpensive, and they're educational because it comes with a remote for the nightlight that you can click through the phases of the moon, which is great because when it's a full moon, it's really bright. You can go to one of the waxing or waning or gibbous, or I don't know all those things anymore, but I used to when we first got this. And they can set it themselves, or you can set it with them. And if your child isn't into moons, they have rockets, they have flowers for girls now, they have vines that can go different places. They even have them with noises.
I know, they're so nice. The moon, I think, is a National Geographic product. It actually, they have a National Geo as well. It's a very cool thing. My kids had it too. And I'm sure all these other ones. And actually, that's kind of an important thing. Like, get something that your child really likes.
Yeah.
Again, depending on their age. I mean, another simple thing I used to do with my kids is you can buy these stars that are glow in the dark.
Yes.
And put them all over the ceiling and turn the light on an hour before they go to sleep. And then when you turn it off, there'll be light.
Yeah.
And it will gradually dissipate throughout the night.
Jem did not have his own room until he was 6, which is way too late. But I can tell you that he didn't want to go to his room to sleep. But when we put the moon in and put the reflective stars, he was all about wanting to be in his room so that he could have his moonlight and be in there.
Yeah.
So, okay, we're going to move on to the next question. My 10-year-old makes loud noises constantly, like a car alarm, screeching noises. He makes them when he's waiting, when he's playing, all the time. He really enjoys making them, but it drives me crazy. Any help is great.
Oh gosh, it's so hard. You know, parents with kids with ASD have so many little things they deal with, and when I do this show, it often reminds me, because we have so many parents from all over the world who remind me that it's so much harder when you don't have a team of therapists. You know, I'm so used to, we will help that, we'll take care of that. You know, we do these things. It's very, very difficult. This is one of those things where I'm sure that you try to deal with it when it occurs, and you will ultimately get to that point, and you will of course have to deal with it every single time that it occurs, but you need a program that is specifically intended to work on this issue separately. So in other words, what I'm saying is, it's kind of like you need a class time. You need a specific time every day that you work on this issue diligently, as if it was you're trying to teach him some reading or something, you know, so it's a very specific time that you work on this. And I think the best way to do this is that you actually, what we call, get it under SD control, which means you ask him to make the noise. So you'll say, make a car alarm noise. And when he does, you'll turn away, and that's that. And then you'll ask him to sit quietly with a timer. And when he's quiet, you give him a reward. So basically, he'll understand the difference between making noise. Making noise becomes conditioned to something that loses your attention, and being quiet gets conditioned to something that gets reward. Then during the course of the day, when this type of thing happens, even just pulling out the timer will become an SD, because now you've used the timer with the quiet phase. So now actually when he sees the timer, he'll know he's supposed to stay quiet, in which case you'll give him a reward. Does that make sense?
It does. This is the first time that I knew what getting something under SD control meant.
Means. So getting something under SD control is often used when we say, you take a negative behavior, and your initial reaction to this negative behavior is to just like either extinguish it, put it on extinction, or punish it, or redirect it, or whatever it is. But sometimes it's a matter of what the child, you can control it if you have control of it, and you don't have control of these behaviors right now.
Right.
So the way to get control over it is to make the child understand this is in a very simple equation, like sitting right in front of him. This is not going to get my reward, this is going to get my reward. And right now it isn't clear to him.
Okay. Love it.
And also, can I just note that it's all about noises for him, so alarm, screeching noises. So somewhere he has obviously heard alarm or screeching noises, and he's for some reason enjoying doing that. So you have to find out kind of, so in my mind, the function of this is either he likes the sound that he produces, or he enjoys annoying you. So you must not get annoyed. You must ignore it.
Right.
And the only thing you do when these sounds come out is to perhaps pull out your timer, which should act as a stimulus for him to be silent. And you must reward, this is also, I'm thinking of so many different interventions, is you must reward when he's silent at any time. You must reward him being silent. Yeah. That's very, very important. Now let's find out, assuming he likes to make these noises, and I don't know his age either, get him something
10.
that's
He's
10.
Yeah.
So you might want to get some toys that make the sound that would allow him to actually generate that sound during playtime. In other words, you're actually giving him a certain other time to stimulate himself with these sounds appropriately. You might want to get him headphones, which allows him then to actually listen to things like music that has siren noises or alarm noises or that kind of thing. Direct it into something functional adaptive, or something where he can, on an ongoing basis, play, let's say, with that need.
For Jem, it was singing.
Right. Singing is so easy because it's such an adaptive thing.
Yeah.
Alarms and sirens, not so adaptive unless he wants to actually go into the, first rescue business.
Right. Well, what I mean is he used to make the siren noises. He used to make
see.
the high-pitched noises, and one of the things, there were a lot of things that helped, but one of them that really
was music.
helped was joining choir and singing and having that outlet. It gave him an opportunity to make sounds in a positive way.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And see, that is actually really important because you've kind of replacing it with something. Always keep this in mind: when you don't replace a behavior with some other behavior that has the same function, a new behavior will crop up. And you won't always like the new behavior. The new behavior might be worse.
I call that the Jerry Lewis. You know, and there's a movie with Jerry Lewis where they massage his leg and then his arm goes up.
Oh yeah,
and then they massage the arm and then anyway. All right, we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to be back with some more questions for Dr. Doreen. Ask Dr. Doreen. Stick with us.
It's every parent's desire for their child to have a great start in life. Yet there is a condition affecting more children's lives than pediatric cancer, diabetes, and AIDS combined. Autism strikes 1 in every 150 children.
Today, 1 in 110 kids in the U.S. will be diagnosed with autism. That is a huge jump from 30 years ago when it was 1 in 30,000.
Startling new report finds the number of children with autism is skyrocketing. The Centers for Disease Control estimates 1 in 68 children has a form of autism. Now that's a 30% increase in just 2 years.
Well, a lot of the children and all the accomplishments over the last 20 years, I'm thrilled.
I think what kept me was the feeling that, you know, I would have a parent come to my office late at night at UCLA and just fall apart. And this is a long time ago, and there were much less back then in terms of services and knowledge and so on. And I would just sit with the family and the parents and walk them through and try to take away some of their fears, you know. And at that point I realized, I think the thing that's actually most important to me is that process. I mean, thank God that I've been very, very lucky and blessed to have so many incredible clinicians join me along the way and just develop CARD in such an amazing, magnificent way. That I could, you know, for me it was more really about how can I help the families? What can I do for the moms, the dads, you know? It is just, and I feel like, you know, there's no way I would ever really know because I haven't had my own child go through this, but I've experienced it with people a lot of times.
Hi, this is Megan. I'm in first grade all by myself. My teachers are so fabulous. I like to read books. I like to go to my friends' birthday parties. I like to invite my friends to my birthday parties. I once had a sleepover with a friend. I like to have play dates with my friend. I'm the best reader in my class. I like to go to the library. I like to read different series of books. And here's how I learned to do all these things. By my card friends and Dr. Grandpichet. Thank you, card friends and Dr. Grandpichet.
Welcome back to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. We're about to start a marathon. We're going to answer as many questions as we can. You ready?
I'm just counting how many there are.
I know. We're going to see if we
11,
can break
12.
a record here.
I think there's 12 or 13. We'll see.
Well, that's not counting the newest ones that have come in since we
I
started. But okay, that's all good. Hello, Dr. Grandpichet. How can I help my son make an important decision like whether or not he likes a school when he lacks decision-making skills? He changes his mind all the time and has processing issues. I was thinking maybe a pros and cons list to help him. Any other ideas?
You know, I wish I knew the age of this child because sometimes we want to teach our kids things that are maybe a little bit too advanced for them. You know, he does not have to make these decisions right now, and perhaps it's what you're expecting is a little bit too much. Certainly you can do pro and cons lists. Certainly you can teach, I mean, you should be teaching him various other things about processing, decision making, choices, all those types of things. And if you're interested, there is a very good lesson in skills which is called choices, and it begins with teaching the individual to make a choice, which is easy between a good and a bad thing, and then you know, you eventually get to choosing between two good things by making lists of each one's pros and cons. So certainly you can do that, but you know, honestly, most children don't like school unless they connect with other children. No one, very few, let's just put it, not no one, but very, very few people like school just because they're learning there. You know, we start to like education much later in our lives, not when we're school age. So school has to be fun for other reasons, and that's very, very important. That most of our kids don't like school because they don't connect to other kids and they don't have a social group. And even when they have a social group, for them it's more work than enjoyable. It's not really a reinforcer. So you need to find something in school that's reinforcing for your child, and you need to increase that. Or you need to reinforce your child right after they complete school every day. In other words, you just need to tag a reinforcer in here and find out what you can put in. For some kids it's athletics, for some kids, as I said, it's social, for some kids it's what they wear and showing that off. For some kids it's a teacher who they're very connected to. You know, it's different things for different kids. For some kids it is getting a good grade. So I don't know, it's a matter of, you have to look and see what portion of the day you might be able to make it reinforcing. And honestly, more likely than not, you won't find something reinforcing for him yet, him or her, and so him. And then so I think what you need to do is just give him a major reinforcer every day after school, right after when you pick him up, so that he realizes just attending school will be reinforced.
Okay. Moving on to the next question. Hi, Shannon. This question is for Dr. G. I just received the book, the cards book in the mail yesterday, and I just want to say it's massive. LOL. I want to know if I can use this book to teach my son conversation. He has tons of language and a lot of spontaneous too, but his conversation is almost non-existing. He's 4 years, 10 months. We're in New Jersey. We don't have ABA because my husband's insurance is self-funded. It's horrible. I never thought I would envy a parent for being able to provide their special needs kid with therapy. And she makes a sad face. Also, how can I teach him to be more social? He's aware of other kids, but just does not look interested in them. But if they have something like food or a toy that he likes, he wants to go take it from them. He's considered high functioning. I just want him to at least say hi without being prompted, or to acknowledge a kid his age to play with him. Do you see this often where a kid has a lot of language and high functioning, but social skills are so poor? He scores at 24 to 30 months for social skills, so he's really delayed for a kid who will be 5 soon. He's a really smart little boy. He loves letters so much, and he scored at 5 years, 6 months for academics. So definitely really smart. Thanks so much, and God bless. Tears your heart up.
It does tear your heart up. This is oh my God, how do we, instead of focusing on all these little things, I have to figure out a way where you can get help for him, because you need therapy, he needs ABA, and he needs intensive ABA, especially if he's a little guy who likes letters and stuff. That means he's might be hyperlexic, and my hyperlexic kids tend to do so well with appropriate therapy. So please, we have to focus more on ways that you can actually get him funding and therapy. So here are some ways, and honestly, that's what you need to focus on. I understand that you're currently frustrated, so I'll give you some ways that you can currently receive some immediate help. So here's 2 things that you can do. One is, you will need to learn, so I want to talk about IBT and skills.
Yes.
You'll need to learn some techniques. ABA techniques. So the source for that is Institute for Behavioral Training, which is ibehavioraltraining.com. Please go there. The modules on ibehavioraltraining.com are very inexpensive. If you really are having a hard time with even paying for those modules, write back into Shannon and I will give you a grant for that so that you can access the parent modules and learn the parent modules. I really would recommend that highly, because that will teach you the answer to many of the things you've asked here, because once you know the techniques, it's very easy to figure out how to reduce challenging behavior. Second thing is, if you can find the time, go to skills, which is skillsforautism.com. Shannon, are you still doing those things where you help parents acclimate to skills, or do you have time?
Yeah, I still need to. We're making short little videos, but I can take the time with a parent to walk them through it. I need to do that. I said I would, and I will.
It's a little difficult. If you can get on skills, it's a little initially becoming familiar with skills, because it's such a full website. It's very difficult. It's kind of intimidates parents a little bit. But what it is you start with a questionnaire. It's just an index assessment questions, and your child's almost 5, so you'll receive several hours worth of questions. So spend a week or 2 doing this. Spend 20 minutes here, an hour there, wherever you have time, and you'll be asked questions about him, and you'll just say yes or no. And the questions are, can he do this? Yes or no. And if you don't understand the questions, because some of them are technical, you look at the example, and the example is pretty easy to see. So you'll just answer those questions, and you will easily be able to assess what his needs are to begin with, in detail. And once you've done that, everything you said he cannot do will then be linked to a lesson, to a program area. And then the lessons are kind of listed in order of what exactly you teach and how. And if you've done the IBT training, you'll understand all the language on skills very, very well. And then it's a matter of actually carrying out the lessons. Now initially you could hire people in the neighborhood or get students from high school, pay them minimum wage, and show them how to do these lessons, and because you will be trained. In fact, have them watch the IBT modules if you like. Family members can help anyone. and you get this process going. You put together, let's say, a 20-hour program for him where he's getting 4 hours of direct sit-down therapy a day. You'll see huge, huge increases as long as the people doing it are consistent and well-trained, which, you know, we're offering that to you in IBT and Skills. Skills will put together your lesson plan and your programs. IBT will give you the techniques. So that's kind of the short or the easy, or, you know, like the last thing, that the last resort, so to speak. But it's something you could do right now because the cost involved is very minimal. Even Skills right now is something around $70-something a month. So, you know, it's not that costly, really. Yeah. So while you're doing that, though, I would suggest that you look into your Medicaid funding in the state of New Jersey, see if you're eligible for that. I don't know if you have other sources of funding where you can perhaps look at getting other insurance coverage or Department of Developmental Services type coverage. You can certainly apply for an ACT grant, which is ACT Today, Autism Care and Treatment Grant. That won't cover you very long because the ABA gets to be pretty expensive, but it might cover you for a while if you have therapists who you've hired yourself, you know, move to another state. I mean, it becomes kind of important, to be honest with you, and I know it's difficult to say things like that because you're depending on your husband's job. Have your husband talk to the HR director or department of his job. Because most organizations that are self-funded are larger organizations, and honestly, sometimes it just takes a few people to push the HR department and they add the autism benefits. So, you know, try for that. There's a lot of different types of things you can try. Anything
Absolutely.
I left out, Shannon?
No, I think that covers it. I just want to say, because you wrote it and first said about the book, so to just go through and say in terms of, okay, you've got the book, and the book is going to explain to you the overreaching ideas of how this is going to work. And it's so beneficial to have that idea of this is how this works.
And the curriculum is in the back of the book.
Yes.
But it's not detailed. It just lists areas. And if you want the detail, like for instance, you look and say, you see something like teaching him, I don't know, conversational skills. That detail is in Skills.
Yes. So but the book is going to give you the overreaching idea of this is how you get it done. IBT is going to give you all the training so that you understand how to do it. And right now that's free. You don't even need a grant for it if you register in the next 2 days.
Right, that's
true. You can get that for free right now, get the whole thing and spend the next 3 months watching those modules. So IBT explains and trains you so that you're able to do it. And then Skills does so many things. It gives you all the curriculum. It gives you the assessment so that you can see exactly where your child is and where you need to get to. And then it helps you to track everything so that you can see that what you're doing is working.
Right.
So those 3 things together, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. But if you're up to it, you have the power to have that intervention yourself. You want to get volunteers to help you, you can do it. And now if you do that while you're getting your insurance company to do it, you'll be so far ahead of the game. If you need, I am so happy always to help you to figure out the skills portion of it and anything else that you need to do. You guys have my email, s.penrod@autism-live.com. But you can do this.
You can certainly do it. And I would say you can do a very good job if you dedicate something like 1 to 2 hours a day yourself. Maybe 1 hour a day is sufficient. 5 hours a week, 6 hours a week, you'll get a good program going for him. So think about how little time, what a small amount of time that is that you need to put into this.
And the other thing that I will say about New Jersey is that it's a difficult state for a lot of different reasons, right? But there are some good things in New Jersey, and there is quite a network of parents in New Jersey.
Correct.
There is a hotline that you can call that's manned 24 hours a day, I believe 7 days a week, that there is a parent that can help you to figure out what other resources, and there are other funding resources there. Email me so I can connect you with a parent there so you can start that process.
And you know, the other thing is that if you go to his school, like one of the things that we're doing recently is that our skills company or group, they're providing skills access to schools. And ACT Today, our nonprofit, is helping fund that because we realize that, giving skills to whole schools or school districts even is much more cost effective. We're hitting many more children that way. So one of the things you should do is also talk with your school and try to get them to get on board with skills. Now they can either purchase skills for the school, which they will call in, and we will give them very, very low rates. We negotiate with schools and allow them to have low rates because we really want to get numerous kids in the system. Or if your school doesn't have the funds for it, then request a grant for skills for your school from Act Today. And Act Today's information is online as well. Just look up Autism Care and Treatment Today or Act Today, and you'll see it.
Yeah, act-today.org is what'll get you there. All right, we're going to take a short break and come back and continue our marathon. Stick with us.
The Institute for Behavioral Training provides courses in applied behavior analysis for the treatment of autism. Access IBT e-learning videos on the move and learn at your own pace.
I'm going to talk a little bit about intensity of
IBT e-learning makes any location your classroom on the go.
So our objectives for today are to really learn what is autism and how is it diagnosed.
Get professional guidance with IBT face-to-face training. IBT face-to-face training courses prepare you to effectively implement ABA-based interventions. Choose between small group and one-to-one instruction. Earn BCBA supervision hours via one-to-one video conferencing.
So I had a chance to review your BIP today. You know what? It looked really good. You did a good job with it.
IBT continuing education courses. Earn credit through webinars, conferences, article reviews, and e-learning videos. You can learn more at ibehavioraltraining.com. IBT, 360 degrees of ABA training.
Welcome back to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. We're here with Dr. Doreen Graham-Pichet, a true expert in the field of autism. She's answering your questions live here on the show, and we're trying to do a marathon. Okay, I'm moving on to a question about colors. I have a student who, this is from a teacher, who isn't retaining when we work on, for example, colors. We will work on two colors. I will ask him to touch blue. He will get it until I introduce another and then sticks with that color. It's just not sticking. How can we get it to stick?
Oh,
it's a great question, right?
It's a great question, and I think it's a teacher, and I love that it's a teacher writing into us. Bless you. Please tell other teachers to learn these techniques. So what you're referring to is what we call win, stay, lose, shift. That's a process. Win, stay, lose, shift. And what it means is that when we win, we stay on whatever response we just gave. When we lose, we shift our response. So essentially, the child is learning touch blue, and it's a discrimination problem. So you'll have to go through a certain series of steps in order to teach him to better discriminate. And I don't know exactly how you're doing it, but this is how we do it. So first, we teach the child one stimulus, which is, in this case, let's say red. Right? You want to teach him red and blue. So the way that you do it is you will teach him red, and you'll teach him receptively. So you'll have a picture like this, you know, a piece of paper like this that's red. You put it down and you'll say touch red. And so the child will be prompted to master that and touch red, and that's it. You're just doing it receptive all completely first, then you'll do expressive later where you'll ask him what color. But right now you're just doing receptive because you're trying to teach the concept of discriminating between two. So you'll just say touch red and the child will touch red, and that's that. And then you've mastered that. Now you bring in another item, a distractor. So initially you would bring in something that's kind of different looking perhaps, like a pen or something. And you just put that on the table, so it's not just a blank table, it's now red with something else there. So you just touch red, and you have to rotate their positions and so on, so you're sure that the child is really tuned into that one stimulus. Now you will bring in another color card, something else like green or black. Black is a good one, just something else, right? And you just put that now, so say this is the other color card. And so you essentially will now put the red down, and you put two things down. You'll never ask for this one. You'll never say, touch whatever this is. All you'll do is you just keep with red. So you'll say, touch red. Great. And you'll have touch red. And if he makes a mistake and starts going to the new one, then you position it away from him. So you'll position, when you put them down, you'll position the red one closer so it's easier. And then you'll gradually bring in the one that's not red, right? Essentially, you'll play with that until he's always picking red. Okay, great. Now you put red away, and you do the entire same sequence that I said with blue. Okay, so now you have blue. This is blue. And so now you will start the whole thing again. So it's touch blue on its own. And then you'll have touch blue with some other distractor on the table. Then you'll have touch blue with some other color, the black probably, or something else that you were using, and you rotate it. And now finally you'll bring red back together with blue. And this will be the first test of real discrimination. Now you'll bring red back, and he will keep responding to blue because that's the last one you brought in. But now you'll rotate, you'll go back to red. You might have to do red with black again. We don't know. But you will eventually get to the point where he'll be able to touch red and touch blue. You just need to do it in those phases.
Okay.
We call it 7 steps, but just because it helps the child identify and discriminate a lot better. Okay. Now that's the general technique of teaching discrimination training. It goes from that basic first mass trial to random rotation, and that's how you get 7 steps. However, there's other things you can do to prompt this, right? You can put the one that you want him to say closer to him. That's a positional prompt. You can look at the one he's supposed to. That's a, there's so many different ways you can prompt. If he's a reader, you can actually put the word on there, red, blue. That sometimes helps our kids. So there's other ways that you can prompt discrimination. Once you have the first 2 targets discriminated, then you can add additional targets in the same process.
But patience and opportunities.
And these steps.
Yes.
The steps actually are very important.
Okay. And of course, it occurs to me that Camp Discovery is an app that does this and utilizes these techniques, and that they could teach it, and then when it's having downtime, hand the app to the child, and it will
Absolutely, and or not even, because I think we already have colors on Camp Discovery.
Yeah.
So please do, one of the things you should do is go on Camp Discovery, which you can get through the iTunes library.
Yes.
And it's a series of games we've designed with this discrimination training in place. Which is so brilliant. And so just, go to the colors section of Camp Discovery and have him learn it that way too.
And it literally does all the things that you were talking about. If they continue to get it wrong, it will shrink the distractor and put it further away. It does all of those things, and it makes the noises that they like when they get it right. Great way to do it.
And then once you've done all of this, you will now expressively teach each concept, of course, which is what is it, what color red, what color blue, and so on. The other thing that I wanted to say is, I forgot, because there's something else with that you can, I'm sure that there's a module on IBT for discrimination training.
Yes.
They're not going to apply it only to colors, obviously. This is a process that you use for anything receptive that you want to teach. Anything. You could use it for labels, for actions, for object, whatever it is. So you always go through these discrimination training steps. And you can find that module on the IBT website. So it goes through what I just said very slowly and shows you visuals of how to do that as well.
Okay, moving on to the next question. Hi, Shannon and Dr. Doreen. I love watching your show. It's very informational. I have a son who will be turning 3 in June. He has been receiving 30 hours of ABA since 7 months. He is extremely obsessed with alphabets and numbers. He knows all his alphabets, knows numerous sight words, and can decode 3 to 4 novel words. He knows numbers over 100 and can read them. This is someone who's not yet 3. He has some language. He can independently request for things he wants and places that he wants to go, and can request help. He is interested in showing stuff to me, his dad and his teachers, but not to anyone else. He can also describe things when asked, like, what do you see? He could say, I see a bird flying in the sky. He is non-conversational, but answers questions when asked. Our biggest concern at the moment is his verbal stimming. He is singing rhymes or songs, or he is just humming most of the day, and when he does that, it's very difficult to get his attention. How do we deal with this? And thanks for all your help.
Wow. So, he sounds like he's very, very intelligent and has a visual memory. So this is clearly the type of child that's hyperlexic, and hyperlexia is actually wonderful. It also is really very clear to me from the description you've given me that he's Asperger's type ASD. He's not typical ASD. His functioning level will always be advanced academically, and anything that he can memorize will be easy for him. Anything that he cannot memorize, which is abstract and constantly changing, will be difficult, and you will need to focus on teaching him appropriate social behavior. He will be very rule governed. So remember that you always the child like this will always be able to manage making things happen as long as he's given a rule. One rule could perhaps be singing. So what you do is you will allow him, you will set particular time frames. I'm sure if he's that as intelligent as you say here, he will have no problem learning time, where you can just show him on a digital clock, on a digital watch, when it's like, let's say 2 p.m. or 1 a.m., whatever times you decide. And you say from this time to this time, or you could set a timer and say while the timer is on, you can sing, hum, do whatever you want to do. When it's off, or when it's blue or red, whatever, some signal, you can't. You can even set up like some sort of a flag system, where if you have a green flag, he can sing and hum. When you have a red flag, he can't. And trust me, he will get that and he will stop. It's really, sometimes it's as simple as just that, and not necessarily, the child isn't necessarily able to understand why yet, but once you put the rule in place, they get the sort of the order of things. Now, depending, and he's not even 3, so he's so little, he's such a little guy. And I'm, you know, you may want, if he's really able to comprehend, I guess, you may want to explain that when you hum, I can't hear, so perhaps model it for him, and as he's doing something of interest, sing loudly next to him and say, that's how I feel. It really give him your perspective. See, the problem with our kids who have Asperger's type ASD is that they don't really, they're not able to see your perspective. They don't really understand why it bothers you that they're singing or humming. They don't realize that maybe you can't hear anything else. So all of those things are things to take into consideration. I'm very curious, how did you know to start intervention at 7 months? Because he's so high functioning, what were the red flags? You know, let us know, because that's very interesting for me.
It is, it's very interesting. All right, I'm going to move on to another question, or should we take a quick break and come back and do
fine.
Okay, so we're moving on. Hi, Shannon and Dr. Doreen. Thank you for doing this show. I've learned so much from your advice. I'm writing from Miami, Florida. My 8-year-old will be taking the SAT next year. She is in a pull-out resource program and doing better every day. She always scores lower than what I know she can do on standardized testings. My question is, how do I request for one-on-one testing accommodation on her upcoming IEP? What are my options if the school says no? I'm convinced she will benefit from it, and she has a diagnosis of ASD. You guys are fantastic. We think you're fantastic,
so nice.
too.
Thank you so much. It's unlikely that they won't agree to an accommodation. Accommodations are very easy to get in IEPs. I would suggest that you go to a psychologist who can do educational testing. This is really important, because if you can get some testing that shows the areas that your child's having difficulty in learning, like it could be memory, it could be fluency. One of the very, very important things that we never think of is processing speed. If they do a test of intelligence, an IQ test, like a Wechsler, how old is this child?
8.
8 years old, so it would be the WISC, W-I-S-C, which is the Wechsler Intelligence Scale for Children. If you do that test, it'll give you a fantastic, it's a really good version right now, it'll give you a very good measure of your child's processing speed. That is key to being able to finish things within a certain time frame. So that'll be very, very valid data to show the IEP and say, my child needs accommodation. And I don't know if it's a one-on-one testing accommodation that's enough. One-on-one being you can take the child to another room privately and she can take, that might be enough. She might be having test anxiety, which would then indicate she'll do well one-on-one. Or you might need additional time. I mean, that's another thing you can request. So there's a lot of things you can request for accommodation, and an educational psychologist will be able to help you with this.
Yeah, and just keep in mind that schools want to give you accommodations for those standardized testings because it makes a difference for them. But when it gets time to the standardized testing, you can only implement the interventions that were implemented on the other testing. You can't change something just for the standardized testing. So ask for what you want, and if you've already got resource services, it should be an easy ask, but then make sure that the teacher is implementing what you want for the standardized testing throughout the year. Because they're not supposed to change anything just for the standardized testing, because that can throw our kids off.
Right.
So just be aware of that, but it shouldn't be very difficult. If they say no, you have lots of recourse.
Yes,
you can
you
say,
do.
I'm not signing the IEP.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
I don't think you're going to have a problem.
I don't
with
think
that.
so either. I agree, and I think they'll give her additional time, and they'll also give. I mean, I can't.
They have a list of things that they'll say. Do you think you want this? Do you think you need this? Usually, they're all, that doesn't cost them anything. They're happy to offer that up to make you happy, right? Okay, we're going to take a short break, and then we are going to come back with more Ask Dr. Doreen. Stick with us.
Hi, welcome to Camp Discovery, a free-to-play suite of fun, interactive learning games for kids 2 and up, designed by experts in autism. Camp Discovery will open your early learner to a world of new skills, shapes, numbers, colors, locations, emotions, and more. Let's get started.
Please choose a level.
Objects. First, Camp Discovery's Intelligent Preference Assessment determines your child's preferred reward for choosing correctly. Okay, got it. Let's play. Camp Discovery creates a motivating learning environment for your child by minimizing incorrect responses and maximizing successful ones.
Find the shoes.
Respond correctly and your child is rewarded with their favorite animations.
You did it.
Respond incorrectly and our unique prompting system guides your child to the correct answer by making it the largest choice.
That's not it. Try again. Way to go.
Continue to answer correctly and the size gradually reduces until the child makes the correct choice independently.
You win.
Success! Rewards motivate learning. Complete a round and your child is rewarded with a fun mini-game. Track your child's progress with easy-to-read graphs. Multiple settings options allow you to customize Camp Discovery to your child's unique needs. All this in one single app, the Camp Discovery app, available for free on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon Store.
Welcome back to Autism Live and Ask Dr. Doreen. We have time for one more quick question. Won't be enough time to talk about all the things we want to with this, but hello, Dr. Doreen and Shannon. I have a question. My daughter, 8, who has enough language to be in mainstream but still needs help in social/language and perspective, is passing gas in front of people because she doesn't know that it's not polite to do in front of people, and she doesn't even realize that situation. But she's coming home every day saying, "You stink," when she passes gas here. So that tells us some kids said that in class or she heard that somewhere, and that's okay, but we want to shape that behavior. How can we do that? She's smart, but also in the past tends to do attention-seeking behaviors, so I don't want to do this wrong. Please help us. We love you, and thank you so much. We love you too.
Okay, so a couple of things. So I'm glad you rose back in because you were one of our questions.
Yes.
And we were trying to get to your question. I just needed a little bit more time, and I was telling Shannon that this is one of those things where I wish I had much more time with the parent. So, you know, I'm not sure that you're going to be able to teach her the concept of being polite, of things that are polite at this point. That's a little bit advanced. What you're going to try to shoot for is just, this is what you're going to try to teach her is that passing gas in public makes other kids not want to hang out with you. So that's going to be your goal. Like, in other words, you're going to want to say, you're going to want to teach your child that if you like to play with other kids, there will be no passing gas. If you pass gas, nobody wants to play with you. Now, it's very hard for me to address this because I really don't know how much she understands at this point. So just going back to bare behavioral intervention, let's start there and say passing gas is bad, not passing gas is good. It always very simple division there. So what you have to do is the periods of time that she is not passing gas, you reward her. the period when she passes gas. And is it only in school or is it
No,
always
she's doing
in
it at
public?
home too.
Yeah. So when she passes gas, you need to somehow take something away. You obviously don't want to get all freaked out about it because you don't want to give negative attention, but you can very simply set up a token system for her if she understands that, where she earns tokens for each hour that there is no passing of gas, and she loses tokens whenever she does. So, and if she earns enough tokens, let's say, I don't know how many hours a day you can control. You can actually even have the teacher monitor this at school as well. Do we know what kind of placement it is?
We know that she mainstreamed.
Oh, it's mainstreamed.
Yeah.
So I don't know if she has an aide. You might not want to deal with it initially at school. First deal with it at home and then see if you can get someone to implement it at school. Perhaps talk to the resource person at school. The best is to be able to deal with every hour, every waking hour. If you were able to have someone monitor it because you are not with her every waking hour. Or you could start it on a Friday or something and see if you can manage to teach it through the weekend, because it's a pretty simple thing. Every hour that she doesn't pass gas, she gets a reward. It could be even a shorter duration. In other words, if she's actually passing gas every hour, you might want to capture every 30 minutes and say every 30 minutes that she's not passing gas, you get a token. Put a physical sticker on this thing that shows you didn't. And then have her also have a visual of what she's going to earn if she has enough of those items.
Are we also teaching her to go into the restroom or to go someplace else to do it and rewarding that?
Right, so let's get to that in a minute.
Okay, sorry.
So sure. So setting up a token system is one of the hardest things in ABA. To make a token system effective, it is incredibly difficult. So you need to go to the IBT website and look up token economy, because token economy has so many features that are critical. For instance, the weight of the object she can get to the number of things she gathers. All of this is very important in token economy, so please get some additional information there. Now, as Shannon said, you might want to allow her to pass gas in the bathroom, which is something that you certainly can do, and you can perhaps reward her for passing gas in the bathroom, direct her to go to the bathroom X number of times so that she knows she can go there and pass gas. That's the way to redirect it. And finally, what I wanted to say is find out why she has so much gas. Like, that is the important thing, is that, and if it's foul smelling, obviously there's something going on with her digestion. So I would actually look at what she's eating, and that's kind of important, because I'd much rather her pass gas in the bathroom than not and have stomach aches. So please try to figure out what it is that's causing the gas. Perhaps modify and change her diet a little bit so that she's actually able to process what she eats a little bit better. Make sure she's on the appropriate enzymes for digesting and breaking down food. Beano helps a lot of people with gas. But it does actually kind of break down the gas into smaller particles. Any kind of simethicone will do that. And so you can then, if that happens, you would teach her to go to the bathroom every hour. And that's another actually good way to do it, Shannon, is if you set her up on an hourly schedule of getting a reinforcer for not passing gas, or half hourly, whatever it may be, you might actually want her to walk over to the bathroom, whether she's in school or at home, and then get her reinforcer there. Being in the bathroom will prompt her, obviously, to pass gas, because she knows that's where she is allowed to.
Very cool. We
Kind
got
of
as
a
much
complicated process.
No,
that's
but
why
it's
I
great.
wanted to take a little bit more time on this one.
And
but
I appreciate
the more important thing is find out if she has any GI issues.
Okay, great. And then do us a favor and write us back and let us know how it goes. We'd love to hear back. We'd love to get updates from you guys. Thank you so much for being
It's been a
here
pleasure.
today.
Thank
It's
you
been
very
wonderful.
much.
We
I
got
think
to
we
as
hit
many as we
most of
could.
them.
We got to a lot of them. We'll continue to plug on our list. We're gonna thank you, and we're gonna take a break now and watch The A Word. This is an ongoing documentary being made by the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, following a little boy, Jack Riley, diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. We take a look with his family to see how they're implementing that early intensive behavioral intervention. When we come back, Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson is here. She'll be joining me for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy, and our very special guest today, Danny Bowman, who is going to be speaking coming up on May 20th at Temple Grandin and Friends. Danny's also going to tell us about her recent trip to China and about her movie studio, Powerlight Studios. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss this. But first, the A word.
Okay, now you try. You try doing it. So it seems. Go ahead. Go it seems. Like this. Watch. That's who it seems. You try. Who it seems. Right here. Yeah, there he goes. That's the scene. It's a helicopter. Very good.
If you're going to describe like ABA to another parent, what would it be?
The whole point of ABA is that you teach him how to teach himself. And I don't know that that is necessarily, I guess I didn't realize that that was supposed to happen from the beginning. I thought that now it was all a lot of work with him, and then later he would start to figure out how to do it for himself, but he's already doing it. And you know, repetition is the underlying thing, because for, I think, young kids in general, but certainly with kids with autism, it takes them a little more time.
Touch car. No, try again. Try again, okay? Yeah. Okay. Last one. Touch car. Yeah, touch it though. Touch car. Good, what is it? What is this? What is this? Yes, car, okay.
And I don't think we completely appreciate how much work he's doing to learn, because it's normal for us too. I mean, this is what he has to do to learn these things, so it's now become normal for us.
It's still hard to sit out here and listen to the monitor and hear them repeatedly ask him to do something where he's upset and he's crying, but it always works out. It's a reminder of just don't give up, because he always eventually accomplishes what they're asking, and then I hear the reward. I hear him jumping up and down and them cheering.
You have the monitor, so you know what's happening. Does that make a huge difference for you?
I like to know. It was hard at first to hear him, have a problem.
Yeah, it's easy when he's doing great to have the monitor. It's hard when he's struggling and crying.
And in the beginning, it was hard too, because.
Well, I always thought at the beginning, should I go help?
That's how we did it, because we had speech therapy and occupational therapy to start with, and if he cried, then we made it better, and we were encouraged to make it better. If he was crying with the speech therapist, something wasn't right. It was different when ABA started. Crying was sort of part of the game.
Yeah, I met a guy who at not an ABA thing, orientation that basically told me ABA, yeah, they're paid to piss your kid off. So I try to remember that. They're paid to piss him off.
Right. I noticed one day, like, he was really pissed off, and that was because he wanted to poop. And,
yeah, you know? that was actually a rough day for us, because we felt like we'd abused him almost. Really?
I mean, I got what she was trying to do with him. I understood that, he wasn't being compliant, but then once we realized what it was that he wanted, it was just
he just wanted a moment to go sit in a corner, and like, us adults, we would say, see ya. But no.
Well, and I took him back, and when I was changing him, the whole conversation he and I had was, all you have to do is tell us, and I had him repeat, 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, that was a bad day though for us, because we felt like we had let him down.
Well, and
do you think? Yeah,
and how and I've thought about it probably a dozen times.
He must have been miserable. He was really upset, and.
But would it have been the right thing for us to rescue him and be like, can we just let him go? And I don't know what the right answer is.
Well, we didn't think of it, and they didn't think of it.
We didn't know.
We didn't know what he was trying to do, and
we didn't know if he was just being ornery or if.
but it's a thought now. That's as hard as he'd fought anything for a long time.
I sat there even thinking that it's like, you know what, it's hard and it's somebody else's kid and mom and dad are sitting right here and he's screaming and she had to keep doing it to show him what it was that she wanted him to do.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's not easy and I respect that.
Yeah, she had a hard time, I'm sure. Just, I mean, it's got to enter their mind that mom and dad are right here and I'm pushing him so hard that he's, you know, he's I almost heard a couple 4-letter words from a kid who doesn't talk really.
But, you know, that was good for us to see,
Yeah.
too, that it's like, because we don't know how far to push him when he's behaving
But
that
we
way.
also have to remember that we're the parents and that well, maybe there's something else going on. That's a lesson there for us, is that maybe we should have,
and
next time.
We've even acted differently since then, that if we see him going into the corner, we're trying to give him words, you know, to tell us what it is that he's doing, so that the next time something like that happens, if he needs a minute, that he can
I never thought I'd
vocalize it.
have this conversation, but, you know, you just, Jack, can you just say poop? I'm pooping. Can you say that? And it's, you know, that would never happen again if he gets that skill. That would never happen again. Daddy, you gotta poop, or daddy poop, or whatever. Mommy
he will.
poop.
Like kids.
He's getting there.
Kids do, and he's
learning.
He's definitely learning the value in words.
Yes, he is. He's learning that he gets not necessarily everything he wants. He gains from his vocabulary now. He gains specifics.
How about you guys? Like, you talk about how he's adjusting and getting better. How have you guys been adjusting to diagnosis, the therapy, the
We're good.
30 hours over top of your 30 hours?
We're good.
It's all good.
No. I'm just physically tired. That's, other than that. Strangers that used to come into our house are now friends. You know, it's not the same thing.
And I think it's become our normal. I don't think we would be, we'd be sad for obvious reasons if it ended, because we want our son to get all the help that he can get. But yeah, to have a week without people coming in, I think would be like really cool.
We'd be okay with it. But having said that, we love everybody that comes into our house.
And it just is what it is, and we see such progress in him that I don't think the inclination to be free is strong enough to override the inclination to continue to watch his progress.
Yeah.
On the flip side of that, if we're being completely honest, and this is the hard part of the honest part, but they help us. We've gotten, great advice, and if we have issues, we can ask, and we have somebody to ask every single day, and that's all good. But on the flip side, there are definitely the days too where it's like, do we do anything right?
Yeah. There's days where
there's too many suggestions where it's like
suggestions are. It's easy to suggest when you spend 2 hours or 3 hours with somebody and go home, or go to another child. Well, then I got him for the next 21 hours too after you leave. Sometimes there's too many suggestions, and they don't mean anything negative.
No. I mean, some of the suggestions, even if you roll your eyes and when you first get it, like, pause this movie and see if he'll take a bite. Yeah, right. Sure he will. And then he does.
Yeah.
So we've learned enough.
Which
too,
kind of pisses you off.
It's like, wait a minute.
It kind of pisses me off when they're right all the time.
But I did the pausing.
Yeah, I paused it.
I did it.
You didn't pause it. I did.
And
every once in a while we'll whisper under our breath, really. And then it works usually, so. It's just a defense mechanism, I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, or we feel like Jack, I think, sometimes too, that we've lost a lot of control of our world these days.
I'm enjoying him much more because he's not as scary to me. As I learn more about autism and about his steps forward, it's less intimidating to me. As we get more skills on how to deal with the rough times, it's less intimidating to me. And I pick him up, he puts his head on my shoulder for 25 seconds, and that's like my favorite 25 seconds. And then of course he looks around, and then I put him down, but for 25 seconds he just puts his head here, which he doesn't always do. Lately he's been doing it a lot. I like that.
Absolutely.
Very good. That's good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Sorry.
You get it? No.
Okay. How old are you?
12.
Just checking.
I told you.
Welcome to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy.
I'm Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson.
I'm Shannon Penrod, thrilled to be here with
be
my
here.
better half.
And I feel the same way about you.
And we've got an exciting show, a lot of information to cover, and then a wonderful guest who's here with us
Danny Bowman,
live.
one of our favorite guests.
She's amazing.
Talented. She's going to be taking part in a really big night coming up in May.
Temple Grandin and Friends, happening on May 20th. We've been talking about it from time to time. Of course, we had James Durbin on the show with us.
Who was so spectacular.
He was fabulous.
They've signed on some new celebrities to be a part of that evening. I know Joe Mantegna, a good friend of Act Today, is going to be present that night.
Temple Grandin will be there, of course. Dr. Stephen Shore is going to be performing. It's a pretty exciting evening the way it's all shaping up.
So we want everybody to get their tickets, and we'll be talking about that and interviewing Danny about it and about other things about her art.
And it should be noted, I'm not saying it enough, that this whole evening benefits a program that helps individuals on the autism spectrum work. It's called Autism Works.
So we're very supportive of it, Shannon
Yes.
and I, and
absolutely
want to encourage everybody to come that night. We'll be there for sure.
Absolutely. And so Danny's going to be joining us in the next segment, but first we want to talk about some news. And we want to start with a case in particular, and I know you did a news piece about this yesterday that you were interviewed.
I wasn't even aware of this case until yesterday, till Monday. And I got a call from KABC Radio, a show called Judge Christina, asking me if I would come on as an autism parent and advocate to talk about the case in Virginia, which is actually my home state, and how a 6th grader with autism, Caleb Moon Robinson in Lynchburg, Virginia, a 6th grader, initially kicked a trash can, was charged with disorderly conduct, and the police were called in. And because Caleb had a reaction to the police grabbing him, pinning him, he tried to break free. He was charged with resisting arrest, and now he is charged with a felony. Hello, a 6th grader with autism. This is a pretty, I think, shocking case. I think when I told you, Shannon, about it, I said, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? And you said uneducated.
Yeah. Well, I said ignorance because it is so disheartening to me when we talk about all the different things and all the different strategies that we know and all the different reasons why their behavior is communication. And that there are so many things that we can do to teach them better ways to communicate. But we think our society is so punishment driven. We think we have to punish, 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 punish. And I know that the people working with this child probably think that they're doing a great thing, and we want to teach this child that this is not allowed.
I don't know how they could think that if they had any training at all with autism.
There's the crux of it, is that they probably haven't, and that the law enforcement dealing with this are probably called in. They come to the situation and they go, the school has called us in because we're having behavior that is inappropriate, and they've been trained, punish, 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 and if somebody isn't doing what you ask them to do, we escalate and we handcuff and we restrain them. Well, that's exactly the wrong thing to do.
Exactly the wrong thing.
It's exactly the wrong thing to do. And if somebody were able to help them to, there was a day when you and I didn't understand that.
Of course. Yeah, we thought that discipline, if they just listen, right?
When people would say to me, you need to get your child to behave, and this is your fault, you're not a good parent. If you had your child under control, this is your fault.
Right.
And I took that on for a while. I thought that was me. And then I learned that's not the case, and here's what does work. And I just think this is criminal that this young boy who is probably having trouble communicating, and instead of somebody helping him, they're trying to punish him into being able to understand it. And guess what? I want to use Dr. Phil's words. How's that working for you? It's not helping. This young boy, he's got criminal charges piling up. He's in 6th grade.
Yes, a young, bespectacled boy with an interest in science. He does happen to be African American. And I don't understand this. What I do know is that Virginia is one of the highest, has the highest rates of charging juveniles with crimes. So that's something, they top the list of states nationwide that refer students to law enforcement. Now, when Caleb was charged with a felony, that was done by the juvenile court system, a judge, a Lynchburg juvenile court judge. His mother, Stacy Doss, who is the daughter of a police officer, is outraged about the whole thing. I do want to say that there is a petition online on change.org. So if you go to change.org and if you look up Caleb Moore, you will find the information there to sign that petition, that the governor needs to pardon him and we need to give him training. And there happens to be one of the top autism centers in the country there, which is the Rimland Center, run by Dr. Elizabeth Mumper, right in Lynchburg.
So, you know, again, this needs to be solved for this young man, but if you think, watching this, that this is happening in Virginia and this is not a problem where you are, I would ask you to think again.
Right.
That until we train all of our professionals that are first responders, until we train our teachers and give them the skills that they need so that they feel safe and they feel comfortable and they know how to be effective, we are going to continue to see these problems.
Yes.
And it's to the detriment of absolutely everyone. A
Right.
child is going to get hurt, whether it's the child that's on the autism spectrum or a child that's in the school with them. A child is going to get, children have already been hurt.
Right. And yesterday on the show with Judge Christina, they asked me some things that parents can do, and I talked about the IEP process, and I talked about behavioral intervention plans with IEP. If you have a child that is prone to outbursts and tantrums, you must have a behavioral intervention plan in place for the school to follow.
And you ask for that in the IEP process. Once you've got the behavior intervention plan, you ask that it be attached to the IEP. It becomes part of that legal document. They are legally responsible for adhering to what that behavior intervention plan needs. If your school doesn't know how to make an effective behavior intervention plan, there is a behavior intervention plan builder in Skills.
Okay.
They can request that. They can say, can you show us how this works? Can we have a free trial? Contact the people at skillsforautism.com if the school doesn't know how to do it. They should. They should know how to do it, but if they don't, have them use the BIP builder and Skills.
Good idea.
Okay, so we got a couple of other stories, but should we just should we save those for later?
And let's get Danny here.
Yes, Danny Bowman, amazing young woman on the autism spectrum, owns her own film studio. Is she 19 or 20? She might have turned 20 in the interim, but this young woman is a world traveler, has just come back from China, speaks and lectures and teaches all around the world.
Yeah, she's
she
an
is
amazing young
remarkable.
woman.
You're going to love her. Very talented. So Danny Bowman coming up after these messages. Stick with us.
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Welcome back to Autism Live. I'm Lisa Ackerman with Taka. My
Hi.
guest here.
I am Jennifer Lucero with Taka.
Taka Mom's here in the house. Jeff saw on a TV commercial, they were making calzones, and he looked at me and goes, Mom, please make me that. Wait a minute, yeah, calzone, you can't have calzone. He goes, well, you make me pizza. Why don't we call it a pizzone? So we're going to do this ode to Jeff, pizzone. So I'm going to have Jen come on in.
All right.
You're in charge.
Ready.
We're going to add a little grapeseed oil, garlic, cut up chicken, finely cut up onion, and we're going to throw a little bit of basil. So we're going to just take about 5 minutes or so, saute up the chicken and all of the onions together. While Jen is slaving away at the stove, I'm going to make the pizza crust. A lot of gluten-free choices that you have out there for pizza crust. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the dry. Again, I'm using eggs. There are a lot of egg replacers on the Taka website. We have about a dozen different ways to replace eggs. So I'm going to go ahead and add my shortening. Calls for a little extra salt, which I'm going to put in here. And also add a little pepper. And we also have herbs de Provence that gives the crust a nice Italian flavor. Can't forget the apple cider vinegar, organic stuff, ready to go. Yes, I have all my ingredients. We're ready to rock with this mixer. And don't be afraid of dough. Dough doesn't bite. So here's what we'll be working with to make the puzzone. I'm ready to go. Let's get this party started. So what we're going to do next is roll out the dough. I like to be rolling in the dough, but we're going to roll out the dough instead. So let's go ahead and get started here with that. So again, you see me using the parchment paper all the time. Love this stuff. It's basically unbleached, ready to go. It's just going to make life a lot easier on your rolling pin. You don't need to coat it or anything, which is a lot easier. But I swear I should buy that by the gross ton. So the puzzones, this basically makes 2 big puzzones. I'm going to take half of the dough and roll it out. Half of the other dough will be for the other puzzone that we're going to make in just a little bit. So you want to do, you're not making a pie crust, you're kind of making a long oval shape. So we're going to try to make a shape where I'm going to basically roll this over with all the yummy fillings. And so any combination or variation thereof. This sauce, just real simple, is organic crushed tomatoes. I've added a little bit of salt and pepper and herbs de Provence in that as well, which I love. I like extra fresh basil. That's always yummy to have on your puzzone. And thank you, this turned out fantastic. So we're just basically building it the way that we want to eat it. Of course, my favorite rice-free, organic, dairy-free, soy-free cheese. It's going to pop off the sides.
Okay.
I'm not afraid of popping out the sides. So that's the beauty of the parchment paper. Once you're done, you just flip it over and peel it back. So I'm just taking a fork now and going around the edges. It looks so pretty.
It looks really nice.
So for 400 degrees, we're going to go for about 25 minutes. You want it golden brown. And because we cooked everything pretty much already, you're not worried about not having everything fully cooked. So look how cute those look.
Looks great.
Like those 4 happy people right there. This weighs a ton. So let's go to the magic oven. Pull out our finished product. And voila!
Good.
Oh my
It
gosh,
looks
this
beautiful.
is so yummy. There's nothing better than a little Jeff Ackerman puzzone. And this is going to be nuclear hot, but we'll go ahead and cut it open so you can. Oh my gosh, this is going to taste so good
That
later
looks
on for
great.
your kids.
Yum.
Feedback, keep it coming. Thank you for helping, Jen.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for joining us. Come back to Autism Live. We'll keep doing allergy-friendly cooking classes. If you have any suggestions or things that you would like to see us make, bring it on. You can reach us at autismlive@gmail.com or Facebook.
Love the Facebook.
I know, too much for me. Facebook, so facebook.com/autismlive, or thousands of taco recipes ready to go. Basically go to Takanow, TACANOW.org, and we'll see you next time.
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Yeah. And we're back with a very special, did I get cut off there? We're back with a very special guest. Danny Bowman has joined us. Hi, Danny.
How are you?
We're great. We're so happy you're here again. Yeah, you've been here before as a guest, and we were just talking about her, how beautiful her makeup is.
Yes, and
She's an artist.
your amazing string of accomplishments, more that we're going to talk about in just a few minutes. But we asked you here this week specifically, Danny, because there's a really important event that's coming up on May 20th. We've had a couple of guests before on the show. We had James Durbin on, we had Joanne Lara on. Of course, we're talking about Temple Grandin and Friends on May 20th at Club Nokia, and you are one of the amazing superstars that's going to be there at the event. What's your role at the event? What are you going to be doing?
What's my role in the event, which means I will be speaking alongside with Temple Grandin and talk about the most important things of employment,
Yes.
which is for young adults with autism. and talk about how young adults with autism would benefit for the employers who get hired for work and other stuff, like for example, people with autism can be on time. They tend to focus on very simple or complicated tasks. No matter what, it benefits the employer's bottom line.
Yeah, it does.
And you, of all people, know this because you started your own animation company when you were 11 years old. You became a professional at 14. So you've been in the workforce for a long time now.
Yeah, it's been 6 years, especially with the Parley Animation Studios' 5th anniversary last year.
Okay.
Which I celebrated.
Right, right. And you are just a prolific artist, and you've been teaching animation. So you're an expert really on the benefits of hiring young adults with autism and individuals with autism. And like you said, they have so many great qualities to offer us, don't they?
That is definitely true. Especially, I've said it back at the OcaliCon 2014, where I was a national keynote speaker in Columbus, Ohio.
Okay.
And I will be talking about that in the next upcoming at this upcoming event called Temple Grandin and Friends, like you mentioned earlier.
And so there's you're going to be there. Temple Grandin is going to be there. Already, this is an event that everybody would want to go to. But who are some of the other people who are going to be at the event?
Not only there's going to be James Durbin and Joanne Lauren Temple Grandin, but there's also going to be Joe Montano, who will also be one of the presenters. Mia Montano, who will be the makeup artist for this event, and will be some of Joey Travolta's crew members who will be filming the event.
Yeah, now Mia is a makeup artist, right?
Yeah, I've worked with her since we've been developing Mia's Makeup Corner for the TV series.
Oh, she has this TV series now.
We haven't really started TV or web series yet.
Okay.
It's coming soon. We're right now creating a trailer. We're going to be showing at the Temple Grandin and Friends event.
You're so busy. Well, and once again, Mia Montano, who's on the autism spectrum, and a very talented makeup artist,
And
Joe's
very
daughter.
employable.
Yeah, very employable. So this is just really a plethora of individuals that show us how much talent is out there.
Absolutely.
Right?
We look forward to being there on that day.
Yeah, Shannon and I are
going to
be there.
We're going to be there. And so, are there tickets still available for the event? Do you know, Danny?
I'm not quite sure with the VIP tickets. It's very, very limited for the VIP tickets, but there's still a chance with the general tickets.
Okay.
Okay, now the VIP tickets, they get to meet Temple and you and James and
the rest of the people who are presenters.
Okay, great.
And the talents.
So a really good chance to meet some celebrities who in our world and support them.
Really remarkable event. May 20th. What's the best place for them to go to find out more information? Do we know? Is it autismworks.org? Is that the best place to go,
You
Danny?
can also go on the Facebook page, which means you could just check out more information and look at. And you can also buy tickets on the following links when you go onto the Temple Grandin and Friends Facebook site.
Yeah, it's at the Nokia Club.
Yes.
Okay.
Club Nokia.
Club Nokia, sorry.
I'm going to say with the hip kids say it.
Okay.
Wonderful. We can't wait. We're looking forward to it so much. I know that you're looking forward to it.
What are you going to wear?
What I'm going to be wearing is something that is similar to at the keynote speaking event last year at OcaliCon, something similar. Maybe a nice dress or something.
Yeah. Okay. I don't want to be outdone on the red carpet. Okay. I know that you're going to be bringing it on, so we want to be ready.
Well, this was one of the things. I was. How old are you, Danny?
I'm currently 20 years old.
Okay.
I just turned 20 since January.
All right. I was saying before that I didn't know if you were 19 or 20 anymore.
Yeah.
And let's face it, when somebody's 19 or 20, it doesn't matter what we wear. We're going to be outdone on the red carpet.
That's correct. I want to be appropriate.
All right.
Okay.
Well, okay. I'll shoot for that too. But we want to take a break, Danny, but we'd like to have you stay and talk with us a little bit about Powerlight Studios. And I know that you just got back from China, and I saw some of the pictures, and I want to ask some questions about China. So how about if we take a break, and then we're going to be back with more Danny Bowman after these messages. Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod, and we're at the ABCs and XYZs of Special Needs Conference. And this year, for the first time, they've got something really remarkable. It's the Entrepreneurial Boutique. These are all items that have been made and are being sold by individuals who have special needs. So we're going to do a little shopping and talk to some of these fabulous entrepreneurs. Come on.
My name is Molly Rarick, and I'm founder of Breed's Gift. We're a nonprofit that serves teens and adults with special needs, like Chase here. We were founded in 2013 and serve people in the Conejo Valley, Santa Barbara, and LA.
Our main objective is to give our participants the skills they need to gain a more independent life.
My name is Shelley Cox, and Lisa Zalagi and I are founders of Creative Steps and Create Micro-Business Enterprises. And the items that we're selling here today are all made by the clients who have passions about what they want to make, and then they get the profits from what they make after we've paid all of the other expenses.
We are here today because my goal is to be independent, and also I would like to share all my artwork, and I would like to sell.
Thinking about at his young age being a businessman, you know, it's amazing. I cannot be more proud.
Not that.
Welcome back
Okay,
to
we're back now.
Autism Live and Let's Talk Autism with Shannon
Yeah.
and Nancy. Nancy and I are here with Danny Bowman, who is so inspirational to us,
Yes,
a
you
wonderful
are.
young woman who has broken through all kinds of barriers and really let the world know that, as you said, that individuals who are on the autism spectrum are infinitely employable. We mentioned that you are the ultimate expert in that because at 19, well, you're at 20 now, 20 years of age, you own your own studio, Powerlight Studios.
Powerlight Animation Studios.
Thank you, Powerlight Animation Studios. I beg your pardon. And we were just going through some of the different things. You are a published author and
yes,
illustrator.
You've illustrated Danny and Goliath and Richie and Goliath, which I was saying to you, Danny, that my son Wyatt, even though he's 13 now, he will not give those books up. He loves them. That must have been really fun to work on.
Yeah, it's definitely much fun to get to work on, since they're pretty. Some not only it's for kids to read, but also for those who are my age can be able to get inspiration to come up their own books.
Can people still order those?
They can still
How do
order
they
them
get
like
them?
through Amazon.
Okay. They can still get them. They're still available, so they can see some of your wonderful animation work. What kind of animation did you call that you used in those books? What is that
It's
called?
typically mostly on. It's kind of like a combination of anime, children's anime, and manga style because many of the children's anime and manga styles are more simplified styles, and they resemble more Western cartoons than pure anime.
Right.
You are truly an expert in this. In fact, you travel the world and you teach and you lecture and you've been speaking all over the place. As you mentioned, you were the keynote speaker at OcaliCon, a very impressive resume that you're building for one so young. And I know you just got back from China. I saw some of the pictures on Facebook of your trip to China. That I don't even know what to say about it, Danny. There were long sticks of animals on sticks like spiders, and that you said on Facebook that you wanted to eat one of the spiders.
Do
on
they
a stick.
eat spiders there? Chinese people don't usually eat spiders. They usually give them to foreigners because they don't know what foreigners eat. They're street foods.
So did you eat a spider, Danny?
No, I did not because I thought it was so poisonous.
Yeah.
But I did eat a starfish.
Okay, was it
Oh,
good?
well, it's pretty good, which means it's considered to be a nice delicacy.
Did it taste like chicken? That's what everybody always
does.
says. Things taste like
Oh,
chicken.
really?
They say
Some
frog legs taste like
rattlesnake
chicken.
does, too.
Tastes like chicken.
Yeah.
So, did it taste like chicken?
Not exactly like chicken. It's a new flavor, I believe.
Okay.
Okay. Now, how did you happen to go to China?
Happened to go to China? It's
Yeah,
because
what?
my cousin invited me and my aunt to go there because she's having a civil wedding with her newly engaged fiance, which is Chan Yu Chen. Now she's married, and she'll be coming back to the United States with her husband to live at the United States and move and get a house.
Wonderful.
How
very.
wonderful.
Did you enjoy China?
Yeah, I definitely like joining China and get to see the monuments, amazing monuments like the Great Wall, the Ming Dynasty tombs, the Forbidden City, and the Summer Palace.
Wonderful. I've never been to China.
I
Have you been to
haven't
China?
either. It's on my
Sounds
bucket
like something
list.
to do.
Yes.
So I wanted to talk a little bit because you've been doing a lot of work, but you've started college, and so how are you managing all these things, Danny? You were very busy. Is it a little too busy for you? Or are you doing okay with all that?
Well, I'm focusing mostly on the college work because I know college is something more important than most of my animation company work. School, like high school, college is always getting in my way of my career.
Isn't that fascinating? All of our children should have that wonderful problem that school is getting in the way of their career.
Yes. Are you studying more forms of art and animation in college?
Yes, definitely, which means I'm not only that, but also taking some general art classes to improve my art portfolio and some academic classes to catch up with my academic skills.
Right. Now, where are you at school?
I'm at Glendale Community College
Okay.
during my sophomore year and about to transfer to this fall semester at this university at Woodbury University.
Okay, great.
And we mentioned that you're teaching around the world. That there are many times throughout the year that you will go and be part of a teaching, 1 or 2 days for kids. Are they kids on the spectrum? Are they kids who are just interested in art? What kinds of classes are you teaching?
I'm mostly teaching, usually teaching children. It's not children, but mainly it can be children, but it can also vary in ages.
Okay.
It's mostly people on the autism spectrum, and for those who are interested in animation.
And where will you be doing that?
I will be
a lot of different places?
Yeah, in different places. Like I will be doing Animation Gets Real again at VSA, located at VSA, Florida, and also I will be doing another Speak Step-by-Step Academy with Sandra Williams again before my first day of class at Woodbury University.
Okay. And so if somebody wants to know about where you're going to be teaching, do they find that out on Powerlight's website, or is there a Facebook page? What's the best place to go, Danny?
The best place to go to is to look at my Powerlight Animation Studios' Facebook page to find out more information. It's not just that, but also some of the other pages like Animation Gets Real, which is, they have their own Facebook page, and you got to find out more information about Animation Gets Real.
Okay, how young can somebody take one of your classes and get a benefit from it? Is there any age that's too young? Like, should they be 12, or can they be younger than that? What's too early?
What's too early is like under 5.
Okay.
Like 4 and under is considered to be too young for age because they're still learning.
Yeah.
But parents can show them a little bit how to draw and other stuff.
Sure.
Well,
maybe Wyatt will study with you one day because he loves to paint and to draw, and I'd love for him to learn with you. You've been a real inspiration.
That is really
to him.
wonderful.
Yeah, you're an inspiration, Danny. You're an inspiration to my son and to me and Shannon and to everybody that's listening today. Thank you for who you are.
Oh, no problem.
And we're excited. We're going to see you at Temple Grandin and Friends. We're going to be proud to be there, support you, Temple, James Durbin, Mia and Joe Montaigne, and all the wonderful celebrities, talent, people that are doing their best to help our community and help employ those with autism, right, Shannon?
Absolutely, and I'm so glad that you're going to be there showing us all the way and telling everybody about how important it is to employ individuals with autism.
That is one of the most important things in this event. That's the theme.
Yes.
And
Exactly.
once you come to Temple Grandin and Friends, you're going to be meeting lots of people. Most familiar, while others are going to be new to you.
Yes, it's going to be a wonderful event. Danny, thank you so much for taking the time to come today to be with us.
Thank you, Danny.
We
My
appreciate
pleasure.
you.
Okay.
All right, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to be back with more Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy after these messages.
When you find out you're having a boy, you always think like, oh, he's going to play football, he's going to do this and that. And then when he's diagnosed, all those things get washed away.
It's like that piece that's always in the back of your mind, you know, where is he, what is he doing, is he safe?
We really didn't know what we were dealing with. I wish that they could have directed me a little bit more and provided me some information.
I was a young mom. I didn't know what it was like to raise a boy, despite a boy with autism.
Hundreds of thousands of families are not getting the help they need for their children with autism all around the country. ACT Today is determined to bridge the gap. These families really have to go through a lot to get a grant. The application process isn't easy. The records, the diagnosis proof, they're really battling for their kids. So when we can give them a grant, it is so wonderful to see that they succeed in getting that help for their children. Our founder, Dr. Doreen Graham-Pichet, is an amazing woman, and she is one of the world's foremost authority on behavior of children with autism. She's extremely knowledgeable, and she oversees every single grant we give. She is part of that process. People may think of autism care and treatment as simply schooling or therapy, but you know, we provide important safety supports, things like fencing, for example. The whole family's living in fear of that child running out into traffic. I recently delivered an iPad to a little boy with some of the apps that are out there for children with autism. Miracles happen.
I got the iPad from ACT.
From ACT,
What
yes.
did it say? Can you repeat that, Dustin?
I got the iPad from ACT.
We have helped so many military families, and when I think of these brave families that are fighting two battles, one to protect our country and one for the right treatment and care for their children, it breaks my heart, and I think we have to do more as a nation to help them.
There's not a day that doesn't go by that we don't think about it. Some people say, oh, he's normal. You don't see the battles that I see every single day. My husband does have to deploy, and when they get on that bus, that might be the last time that my kids ever see them.
So I called, and they informed me that he had received the grant, which was like a blessing from above. I was just like speechless. I just started to cry because, you know, without it, we would have been lost.
The ACT grant was a total miracle. Without that, we wouldn't be able to receive the service dog. So we're so appreciative what they've done for us as a family.
Recently, ACT Today funded a program for military children with autism in San Diego, the Inclusion Films program, which is run by Joey Travolta, and teaches kids on the autism spectrum literal filmmaking skills. They learn how to make a movie.
Are we ready? There you go, got it. Okay. Everything that goes into the process of making a film goes into everyday life. So they're learning life skills, they're learning to collaborate.
It was really nice to know how much they were enjoying this camp, and they're with people who are supporting them and are making them feel great about themselves and their differences and their similarities. And I get two kids that are working together and apart and together and apart, so it's an interrelationship as well as a camp and a learning experience.
It's so fulfilling when I get letters. One stands out for me, a boy who was 14 with Asperger's, and we gave him a grant to go to a drama camp. He wrote to us and said, "Dear ACT Today, thank you for letting me belong for the first time in my life." These kids are remarkable. You know, we underestimate them. They're so knowledgeable, they're so capable, and we can change the life of a family, which means changing the life of a community.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Great show so far today. We had a wonderful time talking with Danny Bowman. We're making Kelby work so hard today, but Kelby's kicking it out of the park, hitting it out of the park. Anyway, we had some stories that we wanted to come back to. My notes are all kerfuffled now.
Okay,
But
how about this
gestational diabetes.
gestational diabetes is linked to autism risk?
Yeah, you had to show this to me because in all of the other footage and things, I was not seeing this. Probably because I didn't want to see this because guess who had gestational diabetes when they were pregnant?
So
with
yeah,
Jen?
that's why I thought this story would be of particular interest to you. Do you want to talk about it a little bit?
You know, I think it's one of those things. I think this is an autism mom thing. When there's something that you know you had on, it's sort of like you kind of want to push it away.
Okay.
But it doesn't surprise me.
Okay.
That there is a link.
Well, the findings were that there was a study of 320,000 babies that links autism to gestational diabetes. It was called a longitudinal study, which I don't really know what that means. Do you?
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, interesting. We'll look it up. It was conducted between 1995 and 2009, so a long period of time by researchers at Kaiser Permanente.
Which means that I would have been a part of that study.
Really?
Yes,
Okay.
because that's when I was pregnant with Jem and we were pregnant at Kaiser.
Okay. Found that children born to mothers who developed gestational diabetes before 26 weeks of pregnancy were at a 63% increased risk of being diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. That is quite a high number. But then it says, but after controlling for maternal age, education, ethnicity, household income, the child's sex, and the mother's pre-existing condition, the risk dropped to 42%. But it is quite a study, and it said that we want mothers to get mothers in early pregnancy to make sure they're on their vitamins, folic acid, and that they check blood sugar to make sure it's under control early on. And you know, in some ways, Shannon, this applies to Wyatt as well, and to me, because Wyatt was adopted at birth, and his birth mother did not receive any prenatal care until about 7 or 8 months. So, you know, I think, wow, things could have been different, but you know, we don't know. These things are just coming out.
Well, the thing that's striking to me is that it is super important for everybody to be on their vitamins, their folic acid, and they force you to get your blood sugar taken if you come into those regular. But taking vitamins and folic acid is not going to affect whether you have gestational diabetes.
No.
And Kaiser is known for being the most militant about making. I was borderline, and they made us do insulin shots to regulate it. So I can't wait for there to be more studies about how do they actually lower the risk.
Okay.
Because the things that they've lined out here, I don't see how that lowers the risk personally, but of course, I have an emotional reaction to this.
Okay.
So, in any case, be interesting to know.
Well, they're saying that mothers that had gestational diabetes should be on increased alert for any early signs of autism.
Well, that would have been helpful, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? Okay.
Okay. So moving on, the most promising areas of autism research just came out an article on that there's been a lot of movement in genetics, that the largest ever genome study was done that sequenced 340 genomes from 85 families, and they found they focused on 100 different genetic variations in the genome sequence. They found 70% of siblings had little or no overlap in the gene variations that contribute to autism. And then they're trying to develop new drugs that are used for other treatments for autism, like oxytocin. And then there's preliminary studies about a drug for tuberous sclerosis that might have some promise with autism.
It's really interesting to me because on the day that my son was diagnosed with autism by the developmental pediatrician at Kaiser who diagnosed him, it was her first day of retirement. She had been in the field for 50 years, had retired the day before, and was working part-time, and my child was the first child that she diagnosed in her retirement after 50 years of working. And she said to me, she said, well, be thankful it's the first day of my retirement, not the first day of my practice 50 years ago, because we know so much more now. And 50 years ago, I would have said to you, say goodbye to your child and put him in an institution, and now I'm not going to say that to you. And she told me that day that in the 5 years previous, they had learned more than the entire 50 years all put together about autism. And so that was 10 years ago. And when I think about this show, when we went on the air 3 years ago, one of the first stories that we covered was that they had found the first gene that seemed to link to autism. And then just in the last year, that there was 1 week that they discovered 32 more, and there was another week where they discovered 10 more just within 1 month. So it's fascinating how far we have come in the last 3 years in terms of the genome. And when you think about where will we be in another 3 years, that's very exciting. That so much is getting done in just a 3-year period of time.
Right. Another big study is on the gender differences. They've been started looking at how boys and girls with autism differ and why that might be the case.
Yeah, and certainly we've seen in the studies that there could be a hormonal component of that girls are protected because of hormones. But we do see that frequently if a girl is diagnosed with autism, that the percentage of the girls who are more highly affected is much higher than in the boys. So if whatever that, they call it the waterfall effect, if it, with the hormones, if it fails, it tends to be more catastrophic in the girls, which is certainly something to note.
Okay. The third area of research that there have been great advances is that they have determined, there have been studies that, from Columbia University, that prenatal exposure to I can't pronounce this correctly, chlorpyrifos. It's a common insecticide and neurotoxicant, and that they have seen increased autism in inner city minority children with when there has been early exposure to that.
So important that we're all looking at our pesticide load, and so important that you take control of whatever you can. We've talked before about the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15 in our diet, but also looking at the products that you have in your home and that people are using on your lawns. So very crucial.
Paints, carpet, all those things.
But these insecticides, this is an area that is, I always say I go to the farmer's market and we talk to the people, and there's a new booth at our farmer's market, and I said to them the other day, Jem wanted something, and I said, talk to me about what you do with pesticides. And he said, oh, we really try to limit our pesticides, and the pesticides that we use are all organic. And I said, okay, but it's not just a question of whether it's organic or if it's completely man-made. If it's a pesticide, my new understanding of what a pesticide does to the bug and what it does to our kids, it's something that we all need to be aware of. It disrupts the neurotransmitters.
Okay.
That's what pesticides do. What it does to the bug is it disrupts that neurotransmitter so that their legs move constantly. And then they can't concentrate, so eventually they don't eat.
What does that
and
sound
they
like?
die. Yes. And that we know from all the studies that there is a link to our kids. If they get too much of that in their system, it disrupts their neurotransmitters as well. I think the jury was out for a long time. The jury is in. We all need to be monitoring how much pesticide we all get, but especially our younger, smaller kids. Their bodies can't handle it.
No.
So I'm glad that we're talking about it, but we need to talk more about it.
Yeah. Interesting, I was reading in the LA Times this morning, of course, everybody's aware of the horrible situation in Baltimore, the really tragic situation there with the riots. And it was only in 1992, which seems like a lot of years have gone by, 23 years, right, since LA had riots. But one of the things that they mention in an article that I was reading about just sort of the forgotten areas of some of our major cities is that a lot of the buildings in those areas where there's rioting have a ridiculously high level of neurotoxin paints in those buildings. Okay, the young man whose spine was severed was apparently grew up in an area and he was affected by that. So who knows what effect this is having on behavior, on even causing a child to act out in a violent fashion, as we heard at the top of the show in the case of Caleb Moore. Some of these children may have been affected by neurotoxins, right? And this might be part of the piece of the puzzle of why, in addition to extreme poverty, very little opportunity, lack of father figures, they're saying, more than half of these young people being incarcerated before the age of 18. But being affected by neurotoxins may have a direct effect on criminal behavior.
It's a very real issue, and it's something that we all need to be aware of. We're almost out of time here. I do want to mention that the next one on this list is the benefit of massage, because that's something that we could all be using. Everybody can be using, reducing stress, but it's particularly good for our kids on the autism spectrum. We're just about out of time here, and I do want to tease that tomorrow on the show we've got 3 amazing guests. Tomorrow, for the first time, we're going to have Stephanie Schaefer joining us. She's going to be starting a new segment on the show in conjunction with the Autism Society of America on Monday. It's called The Future is Bright. You may know Stephanie. She's an amazing young woman. She was one of the winners on The Apprentice. And a couple of years ago, amazing young woman. She's a lawyer, but has really said that she would like to help with the autism community. She's going to be here with me tomorrow. We also have Zaid Shakur, who is from USC Kicks for Kids, an amazing program that helps to build health and wellness and activity in our kids on the spectrum, and it's free. I want to talk to you about that. And then we're also having a card expert here going to talk with us about the Card for Adults program. So many of you have been asking for that. That's going to be tomorrow. We're almost out of time, but I want to thank you, Nancy, for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me always, every week.
A very exciting show tomorrow. The very exciting show today. It was so wonderful to be here with Danny. Don't forget, register for that free training for the Institute for Behavioral Training. It is on our blog. The link to it is on our blog, on our website, autism-live.com. We're completely out of time. Until tomorrow, please give your kiddos a hug from me.
And yourselves a hug from me. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye for now.
The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant